Hi, it's Margaret, and thank you so much for joining me here on the Gardening Me. Today I'm talking about Coleus. I just finished sowing a couple of different varieties, and I thought I would take you along for the ride. Before I show you the video of the actual sowing, though, I thought I would talk a little bit about the two varieties that I'm growing this year because I'm super excited. So in terms of Coleus, though, what I generally do is I put them in pots. I have a front entrance that faces north, so I usually need those shade-loving plants in that area. And more often than not, I'll just go out to the nursery and buy a few Coleus and put them in pots out front. But this year, I thought I would grow an assortment of them. And I am very excited about these two varieties that I'm growing. So the first one, if you saw my Baker Creek seed haul, you'll recognize it. It is Coleus Sunset. It is a beautiful frilly Coleus, which is so unusual. And what I also really love about it, other than the obvious gorgeous frills, is that the leaves are mix of kind of corally orangey colors, which is beautiful. They describe it as a kaleidoscope of colors. But on top of that, what I particularly like even more than the whole kaleidoscope of color thing is the fact that they seem to be edged in a lime green, which I really, really love. These are supposed to be compact and they have a bushy habit, so this will make them perfect for containers, but you can, I think, use them in bedding and stuff like that as well, so they're good for that too. The next one I'm growing, I am especially excited about, and it is called Sun Coral Candy, and it is an All-America Selections winner for this year. Now, this one has very different leaves than the Coleus Sunset, but also very different leaves than what standard everyday kind of run-of-the-mill coleus have. These leaves are very narrow and they're serrated along the edges, and the plant itself kind of is a mound that sort of looks like it drapes down. It sort of cascades almost. It's a corally orangey kind of color, and it also has kind of a darker red and a lime green as well around the edges. One of the good features about this particular one is that it also does well in the sun. So the colors don't fade out in the sun. So I may actually trial some of these in the sun as well as in the shade. And the last thing about this is it is a pretty full plant. This one, they say that 3 seeds will produce 3 plants that will fill a 14 to 16-inch container, so that's pretty big. I don't think I mentioned heights, but the Coleus Sunset gets to be about 12 inches tall, and the Sun Coral Candy is about 10 to 16 inches tall. So anyhow, let's get to the footage of sowing those seeds. Like, I think it was like half an hour ago. Okay, so I've gathered all my supplies here, and what I'm actually going to do is sow them in this container here. And this is kind of a 2 by 4 inch cell is what I call it. Coleus doesn't mind being transplanted, so what I'm actually going to do is take this cell, I'm going to divide it in half, and I'm going to plant one variety on one side and one variety on the other. In a few weeks, once they get larger and their true leaves come up, then I will just prick them out and transplant them into individual little containers. But for now, I'm doing this. First step is the soil. And I've already moistened the soil here, so it's nice and moist. It holds together, but it's not sopping wet. And first step is I am going to fill this up with soil. As I'm doing that, I'm kind of lightly pressing down with my fingers just to kind of get rid of any big air pockets. Not hard though, just lightly. And that is more or less good. So there we are. Now, what I'm going to do is actually wash my hands before I carry on. The next thing is I'm going to take the popsicle stick here and just break a little bit of it off so that it kind of fits in the middle here. And that's going to be my divider between the two sides. And I'm going to do the labels now for these so that I don't start sprinkling things on and then get mixed up afterwards. So we have Coleus Sunset. And that goes there. And Sun Coral Candy. And this goes here. Now let's take a quick peek to see what these seeds look like. The ones from All America Selections are actually pelleted. I don't believe the Baker Creek ones are. I don't think they do pelleted seeds. No, they don't. So this is what the seeds look like when they're not pelleted. Pretty tiny. Now, this is actually a tool that I use a lot for these teeny tiny seeds, but I actually don't use it as it's intended to be used. Technically, what you're supposed to do is you put the seed in here, and then this plastic bit has different size openings, and then a certain amount or a seed, like one seed or whatever, is supposed to come out of that opening. It'll kind of go down here. There's a little grooves at the bottom. I'm not sure if you can see that, but those little grooves there actually slow the seed down so it doesn't kind of just spill out. But what I do is I use it in a different way. I use it for these little seeds, and what I'll do is I'll put it in here, and then I pick up the seeds and distribute them. And then I actually use this bit here to put it back in the packet, because otherwise, I don't know, these seeds are so tiny, they end up going all over the place. So the only kind of detriment to this is it is a dark color. I wish instead of green it was white. It would be a lot better if it was white. I did try using plates to do this, but the problem was getting that teeny tiny seed back into the envelope, and this makes it super easy. So what I'm going to do is do the old wet toothpick on the seed method. And so you kind of just wet your toothpick a little bit, and then you touch it to the seed, and normally it works really well and it picks up the seed. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, I think I got it focused there. So you can see the seed at the end of the toothpick there. And now I'm just going to, whoops, wrong side. I'm going to put it on the soil, and I kind of just give it a little bit of a twist and it goes right on the soil. I don't know how many I'm going to do. I'm thinking I don't need a ton of Coleus. This is mainly for my front entrance, which is facing north. So I do a lot of pots kind of around the stairs and stuff. I'm thinking I'm going to do 10 each and see what happens, because you don't necessarily get 100% germination. And you notice that I'm also spreading out the seed. I'm not just putting them all in one little spot. I think that was 9, so I'll do one more to make it 10. Just put that there, and that's that. And here is the, oh, and by the way, this is a super inexpensive thing. I actually got this for free when I was at a Johnny's booth one time, but I think it's like a $2 thing or something like this. It's very inexpensive. So here, I'm just going to open my little packet and all the seeds go back in. Perfect. So now I'm going to go on to the sun coral candy. The thing with pelleted seed is it doesn't last very long. 2 years, I would say max, because the process that they use for pelletizing the seed sort of degrades it or something. I'm not exactly sure what happens, but pelleted seed generally does not last very long. So I'm not sure if you can see that any clearer. I am going to do, how many do I have? I think I have 9 there already, so I'll do like 5 more. There we go. I think that's good. And now back into the bin they go. So what I didn't explain is that Coleus seed needs light to germinate. So what I'm doing is I'm sowing them right on top of the soil, and I'm not going to cover them up with soil or anything like that. They are not buried. Now, in order to make sure that the seed has really good contact with the soil, what I like to do is I like to give it a spray of water before I do anything else. And last but not least is a very, very light layer of vermiculite here. And the reason I'm using the vermiculite is that it allows the light still to get to the seed because we're covering it with just a very thin layer, but it does maintain the moisture around the seed. It also helps to avoid damping off, which is kind of like a fungal issue that can happen if the soil is actually kept too wet, which is sometimes an issue because you're trying to germinate seeds that have literally nothing on top of them. So the tendency is to keep that soil very wet. And the vermiculite kind of holds on to just enough water to keep the seeds moist, but not too much. Now I'm just going to add water to the bottom of my tray here, and that is just to bottom water this so that the soil is basically completely moist all the way through. And I leave that there for maybe 5 minutes or so, and then we are going to put this downstairs on a heat mat. So I am going to put it right under the lights right here. And in fact, I just realized I don't even need a heat mat for this. When it comes to seeds that germinate in the low 20s, that kind of thing, just having it in the tray with the cover on like this is more than enough. That will give me a nice toasty between 21 and 24, 25 degrees inside that. If I need higher, I have this guy over here. This guy is on a heat mat, and that will give me temperatures more in the high 20s. Coleus prefers temperatures that are about 20 to 24 degrees Celsius, and that temperature is definitely achieved just by having this under the lights with the cover on. So we're good to go on that. So now we just wait to see when the seedlings come up. Super, super excited about that. And once they are up and, you know, a relatively good size with 1 or 2 sets of true leaves, then I will be pricking them out and potting them up into individual containers. So that's going to be hopefully what happens. And hopefully we have good germination from these as well. And I think that's it. Thanks so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.